Greetings and welcome to Epic Battlecry. This is the place where we cut through the crap to bring you the real deal on the gaming industry today. I'm Brent Adams, joined by my comebacks of Cataclysm, my revivers of Rampage, Daniel Kaiser, and Tony Grice. What's going on, fellas?
Is it me, or is that just is that a little more guttural than usual?
No, that was kind of guttural, yeah. I mean, sometimes I do it down low, sometimes I do it up high. Is what the general guideline to that is. What's up, everybody? It's Thursday, my favorite day of the week. Daniel was born on this day. Before he gets to that, Tony doesn't give a fuck. Thursday, Wednesday, Friday, it's all the same to him. He doesn't care. What we do care about is your excellent questions and discussion suggestions that you're sending in on Twitter at EpicBattleX. We appreciate those very much. Keep sending those in. Just like today's Inquisitor,
Pontificator,
Miguel Pires Ramos, somebody who actually has an Hispanic name, as opposed to the tomfoolery we got into with Curtis Bland earlier in the week. And this is Jean Mapira, which sounds familiar to me. Maybe, have we done anything from... Well, I've seen Miguel around the site and everything. So anyway, he says at Epic Battle Axe. So it looks like Sierra is back. Are you excited? What are your memories of old Sierra games? I am really excited. But we'll get to me later. Daniel.
Much later. Well, the episodes this week are...
Let's not have another Monday. That's a
Let's not have another Monday on our hands. Okay, Daniel, are you excited about Sierra games coming back? Of course, this was big news from Gamescom.
Yeah.
Also, in addition to Sierra games coming back, King's Quest is being rebooted. One of the formative franchises of gaming, of PC gaming. Yep. And then also we're getting a new Geometry Wars. Correct. Geometry Wars 3 Dimensions, I think. And there's been some other news about this, but to just start the conversation, what are your thoughts?
The optimist.
What are your thoughts?
The optimist in me is very excited to see franchises like King's Quest come back. The Sierra label for many is iconic and represents a multiple generations of gaming that was chock full of great experiences, ranging from the early King's Quest games, the Space Quest games, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, the Half-Life series. Lots of things are associated with Sierra. And so for them to be quote unquote coming back and focusing on, helping independent studios as a publisher is great. And also, kind of revisiting some of these great franchises on their own. The pessimist in me sees this as nothing more than a ruse by the parent company, Activision, who wants to sidestep all the flack that they're getting. Who
dares accuse Activision of employing a ruse?
Right. So Activision obviously is consistently, credited with huge AAA franchises like, Call of Duty and whatnot. But at the same time, they losing a little bit of their soul and spirit in the process. So saying, hey, we want to bring back some old franchises, and we also want to help find some new ones or some new interesting experiences. They could have just done it with a new division or, Activision, whatever, indie, but to attach it with this name and to come out with these franchises is a smart business move, but it also does feel a little bit like, hey, wait a second, are you just using the name to kind of, get this stuff in front of us and get our attention because you're instantly conjuring up all this nostalgia. So, but, it's a good thing. And let's just say the proof will be in the pudding, how good these games are and how much time and value they put into them. So hopefully it'll be a win-win for everybody. People who want these franchises to come back, people who want to see a parent company like Activision support a smaller division like Sierra in bringing extremely unique experiences to light. Hopefully that is their genuine goal, and that's what we'll see. That's my
Tony?
Yeah.
What's your read on this?
I don't know, like the way the question reads to me is mostly about
wait, you read
Sierra
the question?
as the brand.
I'm sorry.
Well, I like really my takeaway from it was just like, how are we excited about Sierra coming back and whatnot? And I got to be honest, I was not ever a huge fan of the Sierra games. Not like saw them and was just like, oh, that's crap. But just, it just wasn't, they weren't games that I played. To be brutally honest with you, they were a little before my time in the sense that they were, I think mostly PC games.
I was going to say, you were kind of on console during that era.
Yeah, exactly. At that time, I was playing more console games and stuff. So I guess I just don't have the sort of, the yearning for that gameplay style or those titles and, different properties to come back personally. So I got to be honest, I'm not really excited so much about that. I will say, like, one of my favorite games of all time, genuinely, is Geometry Wars. Mainly Retro Evolved, like the second one, or whatever the sequel, however you want to call it. Love that game. It's such a fun game, and I like to see it coming back. But to be honest, to me, that is in no way connected to Sierra. That is just they're putting it under this brand of Sierra. It had no connection to Sierra when it first came out. Yeah. It was it was with Activision. So I mean, this is just their way of saying here is another title that will be under this brand. This kind of reminds me of when. Remember when Atari was kind of languished for a long time, and then they got picked up by. I can't remember. They got picked up by somebody, and then somebody else, I think it was Infogrames, finally purchased them. And basically, they just bought it for the rights, like not even so much the rights to the games, although I did think they get that, because just to be honest with you, the games they had were, at that point, sort of so out of touch with like current things that, having the Asteroids license didn't really do much unless you were, creating like a retro gaming pack or something. So they basically just got it because people did recognize the name Atari.
Yeah.
And so in turn, they still could get some kind of interest off of, just putting the name Atari on, with their brand. But it had nothing really to do with Atari. It was just a brand. They were just buying a name that had some amount of weight in the industry.
Polaroid or something.
Exactly. So that's all this feels like to me. And to be honest, I'm not really excited about that either. Like to me, getting the name to use for that purpose and not, and that purpose alone is actually a worse thing. Now, if it is to genuinely revive that company, like, if this Sierra brand, comes back strong with all of those, like, King's Quest and was it Police Quest and all the series that were like really, really well known for, I'm all for it. What's that?
Not Costume Quest. That's something.
Not Costume Quest or Leisure Suit Larry. That was the only Sierra game I think that I could ever say I honestly remember playing, and I hated that, to be brutally honest with you. That was a big way. It was a terrible game, but I could see hard. That being of interest, but I don't necessarily think that is what's going to happen. I think that it's because like you see, one of the first games they mentioned is Geometry Wars, which has really nothing to do with the history of Sierra. So just I don't know. To me, it feels odd. I'm not that excited about it. Brent, what do you think?
There's another part of this that is kind of interesting, and that is that Sierra Games is going to be within Activision, kind of a house for the development of indie games and indie talent and so forth. They're looking for kind of like this sub label, I suppose, that's going to be focused on developing talent within the game industry and you're bringing in those kinds of people and those kinds of ideas to do things that Activision, the big AAA Activision Blizzard company, can't do. Can't be focused on because they're too focused on raping you. So I think that's an interesting idea. I'd be curious to see what fruit that bears. Whether or not they really stick to that mission statement, whether they really deliver on the promise of that goal. Mm-hmm. But as far as the actual announcement, the news that we know right now, and what's on the table, which is Sierra Games is back. King's Quest is coming back. Geometry Wars is also coming back. I have to say that there is that part of me. There is that part of me that loves the old King Quest games. That's like, oh man, that's a fucking great idea. Like this could be so cool. But I have to kind of temper that. It's like, well, look, it's not Ken and Roberta Williams doing these games anymore. And hopefully there's people in there that are fans of King's Quest and really want to bring the series into the modern era in a way that brings a lot of the sensibilities and charm and everything of the old games along with it. That'd be really cool. but it's just too soon to. It's too soon to speculate as to what it's going to be. I mean, and we'll find out eventually. Eventually we'll find out exactly what it's going to be, and then we can just know. So I guess that I'm trying to kind of temper my nostalgic impulse for enthusiasm,
right,
with, I guess, kind of like what Daniel's saying, with just that kind of sensibility of like, look, this is fucking Activision, and Activision is Activision, and that doesn't mean that they're incapable of making good games,
right?
But just understand what it is that you're going into. So
there's more than just the genuine desire to foster independent game development and revive old franchises. It's more of a marketing. How do we capitalize on this? What is the biggest bang for our buck? Right. And because
those don't have to be mutually exclusive.
No, they don't. That's what I'm saying. But because the two exist, it has to be considered. Is what I'm saying.
I sort of think that I almost think they brought the announcement down a little bit by trying to do this whole. It's also going to be a house for indie titles, and to me, if they just come out and said, "Hey, Sierra is back. The first thing we're going to do is King's Quest," and here, and maybe even if they don't have footage to show yet, just show like, here's the history of it, and maybe here's what we want to do with it going forward. That would have given me a little more hope. But it just sort of felt like now it's like we're bringing this brand back, we're tacking on something that really has nothing to do with it, and we're going to start putting indie games, which again really isn't directly connected to it, other than just being this. Go ahead.
Probably the smartest thing would have been just to completely focus on King's Quest and just to say King's Quest.
That's what I'm saying. I just said that would bring Sierra out, say that.
I said using different words,
and then have like and also we're launching today an Activision indie or whatever, and one of the games we're doing with it is this
Sierra, who whatever, but leave it there.
Sierra had nothing to do with the game. Okay, anyway, go ahead. All right,
Sierra had. I think that's an interesting point in that. What they're trying to do is not just stoke nostalgia for King's Quest, which, as Tony rightly points out, they could have just said, "Hey, we're rebooting King's Quest," and everybody's like, "Yay!" They're not just trying to get nostalgia for that, but they're trying something a little bit different. They're trying to use nostalgia to reaffirm enthusiasm for an entire brand, as it were, with the Sierra label, and that's kind of interesting. It'll be interesting.
But like
to see,
Tony also said that, but including games.
I used the word interesting several more times than he did, though. So
that's true.
Okay, last question, real quick. Let's go around the room real fast. Is there another company that you can think of that you would like to see resurrected, and some of their properties and things come back? I know for me, it's Interplay. Interplay was a huge foundation of my gaming career on PC. I would love to see Interplay come back, along with a lot of the games that they worked on, the Star Trek series and some of their other adventure titles. Do you guys have anything like that, Daniel?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, there's aside from Interplay and Sierra, which are two of the bigger ones, there isn't anything specific. I mean, like, Midway had fun sports games, all those crazy sports games that were fun. It'd be fun, to see some of that kind of revitalized, but aside from that, no, not really.
What about you, Tony?
There was a company used to, put out some of the best games out there I just loved, and that was Capcom. I'd love to see them come back and start doing some really good games again.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody could do that. I don't know who owns the rights to them now.
Yeah. It'd be curious to see how that ends up.
Possibility.
All right, Miguel, thank you so much for your question. Hope you enjoyed that discussion. If you've got a question for us that you'd like us to answer, a topic you'd like us to discuss, a news story you'd like us to visit on a future episode of Epic Battle Cry, please send it to us on Twitter at EpicBattleAxe, and follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/EpicBattleAxe. Like the show, subscribe to the channel. All that stuff really helps us out. Please spread the word on the show. Share it with your friends. Tell your neighbors dog, and sound off on epicbattleaxe.com if you are a member of the Axehead Army. We're going to be back tomorrow for an all-new episode of Epic Battle Cry. Until then, cry havoc and let your voice be heard.
Woohoo! Happy Thursday. Did you guys know I was born on a Thursday?
No, had no idea. None whatsoever.
Yep.
Worst day ever.
Worst day ever.